Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow underway. The Tuesday edition is here, and we are headed to Las Vegas. OutKick coverage from Las Vegas at Super Bowl 58, just around the corner. Everything starts tomorrow, and on the eve of that, Chad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Hutton. Tuesday, a lot of times for many people, sort of a struggle day going, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to turn that around.
Especially if you're going to Vegas.
We've started the trend of starting the weekend on Thursday. We have tried to turn Tuesday now into an energy day. Like Wednesday,
Hump
people
day.
think of hump day. That's where you get over the hump. Thursday's the start of our weekend. Friday, highly well-celebrated day. Friday needs no more help. Tuesday needs help. We're going to give you help on this Tuesday. We're turning Tuesday into something different, something, dare I say, extraordinary.
Bobby Carpenter will help with that. He's coming up momentarily, just around the corner. Plus, the Gun Show. Mike Gunzelman from OutKick joins us in studio coming up later in this hour. Chad, we head to Las Vegas with everyone talking about Patrick Mahomes and legacy. And then we also have Brock Purdy. The quarterback matchup here, just it's so many different facets. You have the salary, of course, Pro Football Hall of Famer, which is Patrick Mahomes, compared to Brock Purdy, which is Mr. Irrelevant. And everything else in between with what they can do, the 49ers, winning for the first time in a long time since, Steve Young. And you also have, the Chiefs going for dynasty. I mean, they're there, but they go for their third in their last four appearances. And, you've got, Chad, Mahomes back in the Super Bowl against Purdy, who is just trying to win and, maintain his job.
Brock Purdy is such an interesting case to me because he's been incredible. He's far exceeded any expectation anyone could ever lay out for a seventh rounder at quarterback and someone that was brought in with a top 3 pick at quarterback. And he got his opportunity, and he has not relinquished it, and he's got his team playing in a Super Bowl. But I can't help but sit there and think, Hutton, when I see how this is all unfolded, that even with all of the success of Brock Purdy, got his team to the Super Bowl, had an amazing comeback against the Lions, played great, made plays with his legs in that game that really turned the tide in the second half. If the 49ers lose this game, the knock on Brock Purdy is that he's not elite enough to win a Super Bowl. And then suddenly Kyle Shanahan, who most teams in the NFL are trying to replicate what he's done with their hires, the knock on Shanahan is going to be, hey, you're 0-2 in the Super Bowl. You're just good enough to get there, but your quarterbacks aren't good enough to win it. Jimmy Garoppolo the first time, and now Brock Purdy the second time. It's just a reminder of how quickly narratives can change and the way we think about players or coaches or organizations from a broad boilerplate sense can change quickly. And one loss to the Chiefs in this game, and immediately the 49ers go from dominant organization under a great head coach in Kyle Shanahan to really good, can get to the big game, but can't win it because they don't have an elite quarterback and need to make a change. I'm not saying I agree with that, but I know that's what the narrative is going to be. And everyone, Hutton, is going to start talking about Kirk Cousins if that happens and Brock Purdy plays poorly.
Yeah, Shanahan's been connected with him for a while, since 2012, dating back to Washington. Look, it's not just lose the game. It's not if you lose, but how you lose. Ask Josh Allen, who lost to Patrick Mahomes, but then took the Bills into the offseason as the team, and by a landslide, the Vegas favorite for most valuable player. We were talking about Purdy as MVP, 2 months ago, which is crazy to think it feels like ages ago with how the NFL season progresses. But, think about it from this perspective. It's not going to be a big discussion this week, Purdy, and what it all means. But Mahomes is going to dominate the quarterback discussion, and rightfully so, Chad. But regardless of this being his only shot at a title or if it's not, Purdy has defied the odds at the position, the most important position in sports. And he's got Shanahan and his offensive system. All of this is true. The quarterback-friendly system, it is friendly as long as you can speak the same language as the head coach. And, what does that mean? Well, it doesn't always mean game manager. It can also mean Brock Purdy is a lot like Drew Brees. Distribution, he's accurate, smart. He meshes with Shanahan the same way that Sean Payton meshed with Drew Brees. And it's a great coach QB combination. The system is the coach. The execution is the quarterback. Because Purdy gives Shanahan the ability to adjust and tweak a game plan in the moment and on the fly. And if you're saying to yourself, and I would be, well, you're supposed to do that. Everyone does that. Keep in mind there's a huge gap between those quarterbacks who can and those who can't. Why did Jimmy Garoppolo phase out in San Francisco? If the system makes the quarterback, where is Trey Lance? They're watching Brock Purdy throw 31 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, completing 70% of his passes. And I think he's not because of course, he's the last pick in the draft. And you have all the pre-draft projections, the measurables. But the intangibles is what you really don't know until you see the guy process in the moment. The jump from the college defense to the NFL defense and facing them, many quarterbacks can't make that progression. They can't make that jump. And Purdy's success has been because of that. I feel like quarterbacks are, if you're a step behind, the game is always fast. He is ahead of the speed of the defense. And his big moments of a game-winning drive or, taking the team to a long possession to milk the clock, I think it shows why he was mentioned for the NFL MVP just a couple of months ago. And again, he's not going to be the headline grabber. But this is such a wide margin between win and lose for him. The range of the stakes that could be in play for him Sunday. Shanahan isn't scared to trust his instincts. And he wants to win a title. You're right about the narrative with him. He pursued Tom Brady this past offseason. He's worried about Purdy's elbow recovery. And so you ask yourself, well, what happens if Purdy plays a bad game? They could just move on just as quick as they did with Trey Lance. And you're right about Cousins. Shanahan loves Kirk Cousins. He would be perfect in that system, by the way. And what does a bad performance really mean? Perception. The perception of Brock Purdy now playing in the Super Bowl, how much that would flip if they lost one of these last two games. Because he wasn't good in the first half, but he was good when it mattered. If he's not good here, does it mean he could be backup? Could he downgrade a backup? Could he be traded? It all seems crazy, but we know that Shanahan wants to do more than just make it to the Super Bowl. But that's exactly what Purdy has done, is make it to the Super Bowl where, the odds are stacked against him, and there's this underlying chatter that he's still not good enough. Only 4 quarterbacks have ever won the Super Bowl within their first 2 seasons in the league. Tom Brady, Kurt Warner, Ben Roethlisberger, and Russell Wilson. So I ask, what if he wins? What does perception do for Brock Purdy if he wins on Sunday against Patrick Mahomes? Not if he loses, because if he loses, it's going to be, he's got to go. He's not good enough. He's reached the ceiling. Where would his ceiling be just from the perspective of the media, the fans, coaches, if he leads San Fran to a win? I don't think it changes all that much. I still think he's going to have his doubters.
I don't want to compare Brock Purdy to Tom Brady already, but I'm going to go ahead and compare Brock Purdy to Tom Brady right now.
That makes 2 quarterbacks in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Look, this is the route. This is the way, if you will.
Okay.
Imagine Tom Brady's career if they don't win that Super Bowl against the Rams post 9/11. Imagine them not getting the drive late and Adam Vinatieri kicking that field goal, I think down in New Orleans in that game, to win that Super Bowl. Imagine the knock on Tom Brady after that game. It's probably a lot of, hey, he's a good game manager, great story stepping in for the injured Drew Bledsoe, but ultimately not the guy that's going to go win you 7 Super Bowls or be an elite passing quarterback in the NFL. And now I look at Brock Purdy in year 2 and in this pivot point of his career. Because if he does win this game, if he wins this Super Bowl in year 2, who's to say he's not Brady for Shanahan? He's not the Brady to Belichick, Purdy to Shanahan now moving forward. Because there are 3 distinct phases of Tom Brady's career as the greatest quarterback in NFL history. That first phase, where they won Super Bowls in 01, 03, 04, he was very much a get-out-of-the-way game manager, let the defense led by Belichick do the job, and you do your job of being the smart distributor of the football and get out of our way and let's go win Super Bowls. And he was able to do that. That's Brock Purdy. Could be Brock Purdy right now. Could Brock Purdy develop into a guy who's Tom Brady in phase 2 or 3 of his career? Phase 2, where he's leading high-powered offenses with Randy Moss and is the best passer in the league. And then phase 3, where he's sort of a combination of both at times. He's whatever you need to be. I mean, that's what this is setting up. I'm not going to put that pressure on Brock Purdy right now and say, I see him being Tom Brady by the end of his career. But I'll also just challenge the audience and say, show me the difference. Brock Purdy stepping in because of injury, getting his opportunity as a late-round pick to prove his worth. He does so in extraordinary fashion, leads his team to a Super Bowl. Now, the what if the 49ers win this Super Bowl in dramatic fashion or however they do it, what could Brock Purdy be matched with Kyle Shanahan the same way back in February of 2002 when you look back at Tom Brady and what was to come with him and Bill Belichick? Why not? Why not eventually? That being the case. That is how big this is, Hutton. And if you go back and play the what ifs in sports, and I just played one with Brady, what does his career become ultimately if they don't go down and kick that field goal with Vinatieri and win that first Super Bowl? Maybe it's just one less Super Bowl, right? Maybe it's 6 instead of 7. They still go on and win all those games, and Brady's the starter, but we don't know because that's not what happened. Well, now what will happen with Purdy and Shanahan?
There was even a discussion after winning the Super Bowl that they could go back to Bledsoe.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was being discussed.
And why was that the discussion? Because it was still Tom Brady seems like a sweet kid, as Lou Holtz would say. Sweet kid. But a guy who's a game manager at best, and probably not going to be a franchise quarterback for anyone, because at that time, we don't remember Tom Brady with Giselle winning Super Bowls. Remember Tom Brady looking lumpy, shirtless at the Combine. And this guy out of Michigan who couldn't even be the full-time starter at Michigan. He was changing out with Drew Henson. I mean, that's how we perceived him, right? Brock Purdy was a great college quarterback at Iowa State. He was really good, but I'm guilty of this. When watching the first half and that interception thrown by Brock Purdy in the NFC Championship, my mind immediately goes to, see, there he is. There's the 7th rounder. Too small, not good enough, and that's what's going to cost the 49ers. Probably going to do it if he struggles early in this game too, because mentally that's what we are prearranged to do watching Brock Purdy. If he goes out and wins the Super Bowl and plays great against Patrick Mahomes, that's going to change a lot of minds.
Well, see, he can have a bad game and the 49ers can still win. Can Mahomes have a bad game and the Chiefs win? No. Mm-mm. But no one's even thinking about Mahomes having a bad game.
It also depends on what we're talking about with a bad game.
Well, I
think Mahomes has now become the guy that, like Brady at different points, he can mesh into whatever you need. His whole thing is just don't make the big mistake because he's got a great defense now too.
But in the regular season, by the way, if the regular season will be a footnote for the Chiefs. But just go back to the Raiders game.
Because the Taylor Swift album launch, the new album she's coming out with?
That's the new name of the album.
That's why it's a footnote. That's the story now.
Just go back to the regular season game 6 or 7, 8 weeks ago now against the Raiders. I mean, the picks that he was throwing there, it was very unlike him. I think the expectation is Purdy's going to have that, the clock's going to strike midnight moment. But he hasn't done that. 5 playoff starts and 4 playoff wins. And the one game that they lost, he didn't finish the game. He has the most victories for any last-round pick in NFL history in the playoffs already. He's the only 7th-round quarterback ever with 4,000 yards passing in a single season. And he's tied the most for the most wins in a single season for a 7th-round pick. I mean, it's a great story regardless of what happens here. Oh, and so look at the math here on the salaries. So per touchdown pass in the regular season, Brock Purdy made $28,000 per touchdown pass. Looking at Mahomes, he made $1.64 million per touchdown pass.
Amazing.
Crazy.
You're right. It's great stories regardless with the quarterback to quarterback matchup in this game. Everyone's talking about can Mahomes become Brady because of the rings, and he's trying to get a third in quick by 28 years old. So he's on a path to be better than Brady statistically and maybe even with Super Bowl rings before all is said and done. I still don't think he's going to get there, even if he wins this one, but he's got a chance. I'm telling you, though, from a storyline standpoint, the one you should be asking, can he be Tom Brady, is Brock Purdy because of the origin story. The origin story is very similar. And the perception of Brady then versus the perception of Purdy now is very similar. That I think Brock Purdy's a great story, a very good quarterback. I still have a hard time believing that he's going to go in there and, as I've stated many times, kill John Wick. That it's going to be Brock Purdy and the 49ers that are going to vanquish Patrick Mahomes, the great Pat Mahomes, and this Chiefs team. I still have a hard time believing it, even though my brain tells me 49ers have a better roster, 49ers have a better team. I can't get over the fact that it's Brock Purdy versus Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes will find a way, and Brock Purdy will find a way the other way, and the Chiefs are going to win the game.
What shows, too, that NFL organizations can find a way to this game and be built in a way different manner. The Chiefs are built in a very traditional sense of we're going to pay the quarterback, and we've got our franchise quarterback. The 49ers are not. They're the opposite of that. You just compare the money and how they allocate it across. And we're going to show you this now, I believe. But the positional spending via over the cap, $58 million allocated to the quarterback position for Kansas City compared to just over $1 million for San Francisco. But if you start going down the list, offensive lines virtually the same, give or take $10 million. But again, that's allocated per year. And this is for 2024 moving forward. You can see defensively, though, San Francisco, $130 million on defense. Kansas City has a very young defense, and they're spending just $53 million against the cap for the defense that right now has been playing better. I trust that defense more than San Francisco's. I love how both of these front offices have gone about this, but KC's done it. I mean, I say in a traditional sense, but not really compared to what we're used to when they give a ton of money to the wide receiver and they're loaded up on offense. And this year, the offense has just been, okay. But in the postseason, they're averaging like 27 points a game.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan has found a way. I mean, it's pretty miraculous. You think they just completely blew it on that trade to trade up and get Trey Lance, and they're still right here. But there's another challenge coming. Even if they win this Super Bowl, the challenge now is Brock Purdy's about to get paid. You're going to pay him.
They have another season now.
With a Super Bowl ring, but he's still about to get paid, right? Especially if they win this Super Bowl.
But that's why it's big, though. If you win it after next year, you could go back. I mean, again.
Oh, I know. But look, if this is going to be the Patriots, right? If they're going to keep this up with Brock Purdy, they win the Super Bowl. I'm simply saying that ratio is going to shift. So now you're going to pay the quarterback, more than likely. And can he be creative enough like he has with the quarterback spot at every other position to show it the way the Chiefs have done it right now, right? If I'm betting on it, hell yeah. I'm betting on Kyle Shanahan to figure it out.
Chad, be totally honest here. I was not expecting my Super Bowl prediction to do this. Midway through the season, I thought it's
a heck of a prediction.
God awful. And I was very confident in this in August. And by October, I was ready to jump off, walk the plank on it. But going back to August and our Super Bowl predictions, Chad, you went with Buffalo against San Francisco. We both love the 49ers. I went with KC to run it back and go back-to-back for the first time since New England did it in, 2007.
Well, now is not a time to be modest, Hutton. You're a genius for coming up with this prediction.
I haven't liked KC all year.
I'm half of a genius for getting half of it right with the 49ers. I'll also contend if the Bills hold on and win, it was really that game that separated.
That's right.
Then I would have been the genius, and then Hutton still would have been half right. So what other show are you going to go to besides ours to get predictions that are always this good? And I would remind everyone to not look at my wrong team favored standings this past year, but just look at this one more time as we show you these Super Bowl predictions. And you see right here, Jonathan Hutton nailed it, and he's going to nail it because John Wick can't die. You're going to find that out in John Wick 5 also. Still going to be alive. Patrick Mahomes is John Wick. He will live. He will win. Hutton's prediction will be correct. And my prediction was damn near correct once again. This is the best show for predictions. You're not going to get it better anywhere else than that.
Best show for predictions, but we don't back ourselves because had I backed my wrong team favored this year and then backed this, well, Chad, we would be going to Vegas and they would be comping us a lot.
Hell, my team that I picked with the Bills was out of the playoffs. They had, an 8% chance after losing in Philly?
6 and 7, I think.
Yeah, they were. I think the percentage chance was 8% to make the playoffs after that loss in Philly, and then they rallied and got there. So I ended up looking smarter in the end, but I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs at one point.